I remember the exact moment everything started to feel like it was crumbling around me. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. It was quiet, a silence that took over my life in ways I didn't understand. At first I thought I was falling apart, losing touch with what mattered. But something deeper was happening, something ancient and sacred. I was being rearranged from the inside out, and I didn't know it yet. But I was standing at the very edge of a spiritual breakthrough. You've probably felt it too, that strange sense that the things that used to satisfy you no longer do. You look around at your life and you start to ask questions that you never dared to ask before. Why am I really here? What is this all leading to? Why do I feel so disconnected even when everything seems fine on the outside? These questions are not signs of weakness, they are cracks that allow the light to enter. The first sign of a spiritual breakthrough is that your old life starts to feel unbearably small. The routines, the roles, the expectations, they begin to suffocate you. It's as if your soul knows it was meant for something more, but you can't quite see what that is yet. You feel an internal pressure, like a seed beneath the soil ready to burst. And in that discomfort, you start to either resist or surrender.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Have you ever felt like you're losing parts of yourself you thought you needed? That's not a breakdown, that's purification. The universe has a way of stripping us of what no longer serves us just before it gives us what we truly need. But here's the paradox. It often feels like loss before it feels like birth. We cling to identities, habits, and relationships because they make us feel safe, but a breakthrough demands that we leave safety behind. And so we start to feel alone, deeply, existentially alone. Not because we're unloved, but because we're being set apart. Isolation is the second sign you're on the verge of something sacred. The silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. The universe withdraws the noise so you can finally hear the whisper of your own soul. And that whisper is more powerful than any shout. In that silence, the truth begins to echo. What if loneliness was actually a calling? What if your solitude is your initiation into something that can't be explained, only experienced? You begin to notice that your soul is asking for stillness. You're no longer comfortable with the shallow, mindless entertainment, gossip, temporary pleasures. They start to taste bitter. You crave something real, something eternal. Have you reached that moment yet? Then something strange happens. You begin to see patterns, synchronicities, numbers, dreams, repeated messages. Then you think you're imagining it, but you're not. This is the third sign. The veil is thinning. The spiritual realm is responding to your readiness. The universe is communicating in symbols, in whispers, in nudges. It's not random. It never was. The divine is trying to get your attention. And if you listen, it will speak louder. But here's the catch. The more awake you become, the more aware you are of your own shadows. That's the fourth sign. You can't ignore your pain anymore. You see your patterns, your wounds, your ego, and it hurts. But the pain is not the enemy. It's the teacher. You have to look at the parts of yourself you've buried, the parts you pretended didn't exist. This is where most people turn back. But you must not. Because the darkness is not trying to destroy you. It's trying to heal you. Every wound is a doorway. Every shadow is a lesson. You begin to realize that true spirituality is not about escaping life. It's about entering it fully, with open eyes and an open heart. You stop trying to be perfect. You stop trying to win the approval of others. You start becoming radically honest, even when it's uncomfortable. And then comes the fifth sign, a deep, unshakable sense that there is more. A knowing, not a belief, not a philosophy, but a knowing that you are part of something infinite, but something intelligent, something loving. But you can't explain it, but you feel it in your bones. It's like remembering something you've always known but somehow forgot. You're not separate from the divine. You are a part of it. You've always been. This is the moment your heart starts to open. You feel everything more deeply. Beauty moves you to tears. Other people's pain feels like your own. But you start to see yourself in everyone. But compassion isn't something you try to practice. It becomes your natural state. You begin to live from the heart, not because it's a trend, but because it's the only way that makes sense anymore. Have you felt that? That quiet, holy ache in your chest? But not everything is bliss. The sixth sign is the return of chaos. But yes, chaos. The world around you doesn't immediately change just because you do. In fact, it might get worse before it gets better. People misunderstand you. Old friends fall away. You might lose a job, a relationship, a version of yourself. But this is not destruction. It's realignment. Everything that is not in harmony with your new vibration must go. Can you trust the process even when it feels like everything is falling apart? Can you surrender when you don't have all the answers? That's the test. That's the fire. And if you can walk through it without shutting down, without running back to your comfort zone, then you are ready for the final sign. The seventh sign is presence. Pure, luminous, sacred presence. As you no longer live for the future or mourn the past. You arrive fully, here, now. Presence is not passive, it is power. It is the ability to sit with what is, without needing to change it. You begin to experience peace, not because your life is perfect, but because your awareness is. But you see divinity in the details. The way the wind moves through the trees, the way a stranger smiles, the taste of water, and the breath in your lungs. Everything becomes holy. Everything becomes enough. And in that moment, you realize something extraordinary. Your breakthrough was never about becoming someone else. It was about remembering who you truly are. You were never lost. You were just asleep. Now you are awake, and you can never go back. You've outgrown the illusion. You've stepped into truth. And it will cost you everything you thought you needed, but give you everything you actually are. So I have to ask you a question that only your soul can answer. What are you still holding on to that's keeping you from becoming who you were born to be? Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it the desire to be liked, to be safe, to be in control? What would happen if you let it go? Who would you become if you stopped running from your own light? This journey is not easy, but it is worth it. You are not alone. Every soul that has ever awakened has walked through the same fire, the same doubt, the same death and rebirth. We are all walking each other home. And the path is not straight. It loops and spirals and breaks us open in ways we never expected. But in the end, it leads us back to the one place we always belonged. Within. You see, when you begin to wake up, the world doesn't magically become easier, but in fact, it often becomes more intense. You start to feel everything, not just your own emotions, but the collective weight of humanity's longing, its suffering, its beauty. Your senses are heightened. Your heart is more fragile and more powerful at the same time. And you start realizing that being on a spiritual path isn't about escaping life, but about finally having the courage to live it fully. And that's when the illusions start to fall away. One by one, the masks you've been wearing begin to crack. The need to prove yourself, to chase validation, to accumulate things just to feel worthy. It all starts to look like a game you no longer want to play. You begin to crave meaning, not just in your own life, but in every interaction, every breath, every moment. You start asking questions that shake the foundation of your identity. Who am I if I stop performing? Who am I if I stop pretending? This is when the ego begins its final resistance. It tells you that you're going to lose everything, that you're going crazy, that you'll be abandoned, misunderstood, mocked. It disguises itself as logic, as practicality, even as caution. But the truth is, it's terrified, because it knows it's about to die. And in that death, something eternal is about to awaken in you. Are you willing to die to who you thought you were so you can become who you were meant to be? The spiritual breakthrough is not a single moment. It's a series of initiations. You'll be tested. You'll be asked to choose truth over comfort, love over fear, surrender over control. And each time you choose the higher path, you unlock a deeper level of freedom. Not the freedom that comes from having no responsibilities, but the freedom that comes from no longer being ruled by your wounds. That's the kind of freedom that can't be taken away. And then something shifts. You begin to see that the people who once triggered you are actually your teachers. That the pain you once cursed is actually your portal. That every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment has been perfectly designed to bring you to this point. You stop seeing life as something happening to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. Your perspective expands. You see with new eyes, eyes that can no longer be deceived. That's when humility takes root. Not the kind of humility that makes you small, but the kind that makes you real. You realize you know so little, that the mystery is vast, and you are just a single thread in the cosmic tapestry. But instead of feeling insignificant, you feel sacred. Because even though you are a thread, that thread is essential. Without you, the whole would be incomplete. You matter. You always have. And yet, you don't need to matter in the way the world told you to. Your value is not in your achievements. It's not in your appearance, your followers, your possessions. Your value is in your being, your presence, your love. That's the sixth sign fully blooming, the return of chaos, but also the birth of peace within it. You no longer rely on the external to give you a sense of self. You are anchored in something eternal, and that makes you unshakable. But let's not romanticize this process. There will be nights when you cry for no reason, days when you feel lost again, moments when the old wounds reopen and bleed. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're healing on deeper levels. You're peeling away lifetimes of conditioning. You're learning how to be human and divine at the same time. And that's no small thing. That's the essence of awakening. Have you ever sat in silence and felt the whole universe move inside you? Do you know what it feels like to be cracked open by beauty so profound it hurts? That's the gift of presence, the seventh sign. You stop chasing high states and start embracing ordinary ones. You realize that enlightenment isn't about glowing in the dark. It's about loving the dark, holding yourself without judgment, meeting life as it is. And when you do that, something miraculous begins to happen. The world starts to reflect your inner state. Not because you've mastered the law of attraction, but because you've become magnetic to truth. You attract people who speak your soul's language, opportunities that align with your purpose, experiences that nourish you rather than deplete you. You're no longer surviving, you're living, and not just for yourself, but for something greater. You become a vessel. Life flows through you, love flows through you. You begin to radiate a kind of peace that can't be faked, and people feel it. They may not understand it, but they're drawn to it. And you don't need them to understand. You're not here to convince anyone of anything. You're here to embody what's possible, to be the living proof that transformation is real. But still, you'll be tested. Every level of growth comes with its own temptations. The urge to go back to sleep, to play small, and to numb out. But now, the difference is that you're aware. You see the games for what they are. You may still stumble, but you won't stay down for long. You've tasted something too real to ever forget, and that taste becomes your compass. You start to live with intention. You speak less, but with more power. You listen more. You breathe deeper. You move slower, not out of laziness, but out of reverence. Everything becomes a ceremony. Washing dishes, walking in nature, looking into someone's eyes. It's all part of the sacred. You stop dividing life into spiritual and non-spiritual. But you realize it's all spiritual. Every moment is an invitation to wake up. And through it all, there's this quiet joy that begins to rise. Not the loud, performative kind of happiness, but a deep, steady contentment. A knowing that no matter what happens, you are held, guided, loved. You begin to trust life even when it's messy, even when it's painful, because you've seen behind the curtain. You've felt the presence that holds the stars and your soul in the same breath. And then comes the real miracle. You stop seeking, not because you've given up, but because you've arrived. You're no longer trying to get somewhere. You're here, present, awake, alive. And from that place, life begins to unfold in ways you never imagined. You no longer chase your destiny. You allow it. You trust that your being is enough and that your becoming is inevitable. So I ask you again, what would it look like to surrender completely? Not just in your mind, but in your body, your choices, your relationships. What would it mean to let go of the life you planned so you can step into the life that's been waiting for you all along? Are you willing to be emptied so you can be filled with something divine? The spiritual breakthrough is not a finish line. It's a doorway. And once you walk through it, you don't become someone else. You become more of who you already are. More real, more honest, more love. And that's the most powerful force in the universe. Not a force that dominates, but one that liberates. One that heals, one that transforms just by being. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to listen, willing to feel, willing to fall apart so you can come back together in a new way. That's the essence of the journey. Not control, but surrender. Not achievement, but alignment. Not escaping life, but entering it so deeply that it becomes sacred. And if you're hearing these words, it's not by accident. Your soul brought you here because it remembers. It remembers who you are. It remembers why you came. And it's ready. The question is, are you? Once we've walked through the inner storms and stood in the stillness that follows, we begin to truly understand what it means to be reborn. Not into a different person, but into the truest version of ourselves. The journey has stripped us. It has broken the walls we spent a lifetime building. And now, standing in the aftermath, there is only space. Space for the real to emerge. This is where the breakthrough becomes visible. Not as fireworks, but as a quiet revolution within your being. You begin to notice something strange. You're no longer trying to fix yourself. You're no longer obsessed with becoming more. Instead, you're finally seeing what's been there all along, in your inherent wholeness. You realize that healing isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering who you are beneath the layers of pain and protection. And that remembering is sacred. It's not loud or boastful. It's soft, and it changes everything. And from this space you begin to live differently. Not because someone told you to, but because your inner compass has shifted. You speak with intention. You act with clarity. You love without armor. You no longer see vulnerability as a weakness. It becomes your superpower. Because now you understand that the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more presence. More people who are willing to show up as they are, unmasked, unguarded, and awake. This is where the signs start to become more than just signals. They become your reality. You've moved beyond the edge. You're living the breakthrough, and everything starts to align in ways that defy logic. You meet people who reflect your growth. You find yourself in situations that stretch you, not because they are easy, but because they are exactly what your soul asked for. Synchronicities become your language. But you don't force things anymore. You follow the current of truth. But even here, the journey doesn't stop, because life will always invite you deeper. Each breakthrough is just the beginning of another unfolding. There are new layers to shed, new truths to embody, new dimensions of love to explore. And now, you welcome it. You're no longer afraid of the unknown. You're in relationship with it. The mystery doesn't scare you. It inspires you. Because now you know the unknown isn't empty. It's full of everything you've been waiting for. You become less reactive. You don't take things personally the way you used to. When someone projects their pain onto you, you see it for what it is, a reflection of their own suffering. You don't absorb it anymore. You witness it. You hold space without losing yourself. That's power. The power of someone who has met their own darkness and made peace with it. But you no longer need to be right. You just need to be real. And being real means showing up even when it's messy. It means choosing love even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no when your soul says no, and yes when your spirit says yes. You stop abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. You stop playing roles that don't fit. That's the true sign of transformation. Not just that your life looks different, but that your choices feel aligned with who you are becoming. And the beauty is, you don't have to force anyone to come with you. You stop trying to drag people into your healing. You simply become the light, and those who are ready will find you. That's how the world changes, not through force, but through frequency, through people who have done the inner work and now radiate the truth of their being. through presence, not persuasion, through embodiment, not explanation. So let's ask the question, what is your frequency calling in right now? What are you attracting based on your vibration, your inner state? And more importantly, are you willing to raise that frequency, not by pretending to be positive, but by becoming deeply honest? That's where the real magic happens. Not in pretending everything is fine, but in facing what is and loving yourself through it. You'll notice that the more you align with your truth, the less you tolerate noise. You crave silence. Not because you're avoiding the world, but because you've finally found the voice that matters most. Your own. The silence becomes your sanctuary. You realize that some of your greatest insights don't come from books or teachers. They come from within, from listening, from being still, from tuning into the whispers of your soul. And when you listen deeply, you begin to receive instructions. Not in the form of a step-by-step manual, but through intuition, through resonance, through the subtle pull toward something greater. You start to trust that pull. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop asking for permission to be powerful, to be soft, to be fully alive. You answer to something higher now, something eternal. And in that surrender, life becomes poetic. You feel the sacred in the mundane. You find beauty in the ordinary. You realize you don't need more to be happy. You just need to be here, fully, completely, awake. And in that presence you become a portal through which love enters the world. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because you've allowed yourself to be human. Deeply, vulnerably, divinely human. You begin to serve, not from obligation, but from overflow. You don't give to be good. You give because you are full. You are connected. You are aligned with the source. Your life becomes your message. Your energy becomes your offering, and people feel it. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're embodying something rare. Truth without ego, love without conditions, power without dominance. And yet, you remain humble, because you know this isn't about you. You are just a vessel, a channel, a mirror. And the more you clear yourself of fear, the more that divine energy can flow through you. You become a lighthouse for others who are lost in their own storms. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're not afraid to ask the real questions, the ones that pierce the illusion and call forth the soul. So let me ask you now, what illusion are you still holding on to? What belief, what fear, what story do you still identify with that's keeping you from your full expansion? Are you ready to let it go? Are you ready to become the version of yourself that's been waiting beneath the surface all along? Because that version isn't in the future. It's here now, waiting for your permission to rise. You don't need to prove anything to step into it. You just need to say yes. Yes to the unknown. Yes to the shedding. Yes to the remembering. Yes to the love that never left. And when you say yes, really say it. Not just with your words, but with your choices, with your presence, with your energy. Everything changes. Not because the world is different, but because you are. And now, you walk differently. You move through the world with a quiet confidence. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands respect without saying a word. Because when someone is truly connected to their soul, you can feel it. There's a gravity, a calm, an authenticity that can't be faked. And that's what you become, real. You're no longer chasing light. You are light. You're no longer seeking love. You are love. You're no longer begging for purpose. You are purpose embodied. And the greatest miracle is not that you've arrived, but that you're just getting started. Because now, every breath you take is aligned with truth. Every step you take is sacred. Every act, no matter how small, is a contribution to the healing of the world. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for the next step to find you. And that step will lead you deeper into more truth, into more freedom, and into more surrender. This is the path of the awakened. And it is not for the faint of heart, but it is the only path worth walking. So take a moment, breathe, feel your own presence, feel the life moving through you. You are the miracle. You are the sign. You are the breakthrough. Now go live like it. Let your life be the evidence